Hey everyone, welcome back. This is CNY Conversations. This is episode number 3. And I'm super stoked this week. I created CNY Conversations to have conversations all about Syracuse and Central New York. All local information with local influence and local guests. And this week I put out, a blast on social media asking, advertising the podcast, looking for engagement. And within a matter of 4 days, I have signed up 6 different guests to join me for a recording of CNY Conversations here in the month of June and a little bit into July. These are all local individuals that have a local influence in Syracuse and Central New York. I am super excited to have each and every one of them on the podcast in the near future. Going to be recording and releasing these over the next several weeks. And I think the conversations are going to be outstanding. And I can't wait to share them with you. If you or you know of anyone else that has something to talk about, something local that they want to support, promote, or just have a simple conversation about, it can be everything from sports to nonprofits. And everything in between. I'd be happy to schedule a time for us to record an episode of the podcast. Feel free to, if you're watching this on video, to drop a comment. Reach out to me on the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, even YouTube, and drop a comment or send me a DM, and I can send you a link to my calendar in order to get you on the schedule to record the podcast. The purpose of this is to build community and continue to build community with our neighbors and our friends and our community leaders and even business leaders. So this is something I truly believe is the start of something great, and I'm looking forward to the next hundreds of episodes later where we can have these conversations. But for today, I am still solo. The next episode you see of CNY Conversations, there will be a guest. And I'll start advertising these as we get closer. But today, talking about some of what's in the news. So what's in the news, and looking at Syracuse.com, one of the bigger news headlines that I've heard over the last several days is about the Manlius Swan Pond and swans that were taken. Some of them ultimately killed. A really bizarre story. Teenagers that were doing teenager things. They took an adult swan and 4 baby swans from the Manlius Swan Pond the other day. The 3 of them, the 3 teenagers, ended up killing the mom. And the news headline today is, I thought they were ducks. Okay, same family, I guess. But what was going through the minds of these 3 kids? I'm sorry, but there's other things that you can do to create mischief as a teenager than stealing swans that you think were ducks. And if I was their parent, first of all, I'd be mortified and be embarrassed. Second of all, I'd probably kill them if they were my teenagers. But, and I know that's not apropos to say these days, but that's just the generation that I come from. But I guess between midnight and 3 a.m. on Memorial Day, they hopped the fence of the Swan Pond, took the swans that they thought were ducks, and decided to kill the mom. I thought that somewhere in the story that they cooked up the mom and ate the swan. I don't get it. Life might be rough, but man, these kids are now in a whole lot of trouble, probably more than likely facing criminal charges. And, one thing we need to impress on our kids is before you decide to do something, ask yourself, is it really worth it? And is it illegal, immoral, and is it going to cause harm to someone? We need to instill those 3 things in our kids so they don't do stupid things like this. And I'm sorry, it's stupid. And I feel bad. Anybody that's an animal lover, that's kind of a tough thing to read. So just wow. I'm kind of taken aback by that whole thing. Some sports from today. Judah Mintz has decided to return to SU for his second year. I've talked about this before. Judah Mintz needs to spend all 4 years at SU. Judah Mintz has a lot of maturing to do, a lot of growth in his basketball game. Someone got into his ear and thought it made him think he was NBA material. Judah needs to take some time and get past himself, because Judah has a lot of maturing to do. I'd be interested to hear your comments on what you think about Judah Mintz and his NBA chances, either staying at SU for all of 4 years, or does he leave after 2 or 3? I guess this season, time will tell. The SU basketball team is really shaping up to be something to watch. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I know today that the county exec is doing a real estate virtual Zoom. Actually, I think he's doing it right now. Probably should be watching it, but I'm sure the whole thing with Micron is coming up again. It's still years away, folks, and I know that between the county and the business have bought up a lot of property around there. I know of a family that was uprooted from their family home that has been there for decades near where the plant's going to be built. And they've been uprooted and forced to move. I say forced, they were given compensation for their property, but it wasn't a property they necessarily were looking to sell prior to the end of last year. Oh, let's see. What else is there? All kinds of craziness in politics. Seems that there's all kinds of, and not this is local, but there's all kinds of Republicans that now all of a sudden want to enter the presidential race. So that ought to get insane next year. What I hear today that the former Vice President Mike Pence was going to jump in the race. Chris Christie from New Jersey was going to jump into the race. Robert Kennedy Jr. was trying to force a primary on Joe Biden. I knew sure as anything that the top 1% were going to shut that down because they don't want any in-party competition. And Robert Kennedy Jr. was pumping out all kinds of content on social media, and then in the last week has gone silent. So, I'm sure he's going to find it more and more difficult to get his voice across. And even if he didn't force a primary against the president and wanted to run as an independent, independents don't get much consideration on the national level. So feel bad because a lot of what Robert Kennedy was talking about, a lot of Americans can sympathize and empathize with. And I think that, competition's a good thing, even though the top 1% tends to try to squash that for their own personal and selfish gain. I know that this weekend is Taste of Syracuse. I talked about that before. Taste of Syracuse, I've gone to it once or twice. Easy for me to say. It's just okay for me. I know it's a big draw to the city, but hopefully it's gotten better since the whole pandemic mess and the shutdown there. But they have food, they have music. It looks like Bonefish Grill is going to be there. Both Coast Lobster is going to be there with their food truck. Just trying to see who else is going to be at the Taste of Syracuse. Oh, Alan Angus, Beeville Diner. There's going to be Baked Potato Express. Who else is going to be there? A lot of these great local vendors, local restaurateurs and restaurants. Clinton Street Pub. Dinosaur Barbecue is always a favorite. Buried Acorn Brewery. They go Fair Deli. That's one of my favorites. State Fair Deli. Get a lot of sandwiches there and fish fry during the Lenten season. So yeah, they got a little bit of everything at the Taste of Syracuse. So hopefully it'll be successful and you can sample a lot of different food that will be available at the Taste of Syracuse. Concert season will be starting ramping up. I don't see anything really on that, but I was just seeing that Daughtry was coming. Daughtry's one of my favorites. I'm a, hard rock fan from way back. So Daughtry is playing August 19th, I think it is, at Del Lago. So That's always one of my favorites. Hopefully, be able to take in that concert. I want to take in more concerts this year. Speaking of concerts and the Great New York State Fair, there's an article today about the Fair Expo Center and how it's been a flop because it was promised to kind of change the landscape for conventions and um, events that go on in Syracuse. But I'm sure dealing with the state to try to secure that space for an event is probably difficult at best. So great in concept, but I think they put it in the wrong spot. Been better off the fairgrounds, kind of like the AMP being off the fairgrounds. But man, I don't know. Hot weather continues today. We're deep into summer, but I was looking, and next week we go back to spring. So typical of Syracuse, you're hot one week and you're putting on hoodies the next. But my family and I are starting our first camping trip here this weekend, and with many more to come. And it's always, weather's always the concern. So it'll be interesting. But I think all in all, like we really, from Memorial Day weekend till now, even as hot as it's been the last couple of days, um, you can't beat it. To me, you can't. This is perfect to me. I'm all about summer heat and sunshine, and we just spend way too many days in the winter hibernating because it's cold and snowy and no sunshine to be found anywhere. So I think all of us should take advantage of the great weather, even if it is 90 degrees. Because I'm sorry, I'd rather have 90 degrees um, than negative 10 and 6 feet of snow. So, looking at some sports, here's an interesting article. The Syracuse Mets are the worst team in AAA and a must watch. It's interesting. Can't read the article, but I haven't been to a Mets game yet, and I talked about this last time. I really do want to get to the Mets stadium and watch the Mets and see what they have to offer. Nothing like a good baseball game, no matter what the standings say. Um, all kinds of different stuff going on. It's an interesting time. I know there's been a lot of, and this is right in my wheelhouse, there's been a lot of news and articles about the real estate industry, appreciation values that have gone up to the point where tax assessments have gone way up, and there's a lot of folks that are looking at thousands of dollars in increase in tax assessments. It's tough, and it's tough the real estate wise, because there's people that may want to move, but they don't have any motivation to sell their current home because maybe they're at 3% on their mortgage rate. And if you're going to sell your home and get into another home, and you're always going to, a majority of the time, you want something better, but now you're double or better the mortgage rate to get a new mortgage on a new home, even though you can take advantage, especially take advantage of your equity in your home. If you've been in your home past 5 or 7 years, you probably got a substantial amount of equity in the appreciation of your home. How can you use that? I've had a number of conversations with people that have decided to sell their home to rent. And not that that's any easier market, because finding homes to rent is just as difficult as finding homes to purchase. But there's quite a few folks that are taking advantage of their equity, selling their home, using that money to either put themselves in a better financial place, financial freedom, and just renting. There's even folks that I know that are selling their home, take advantage of the equity, moving somewhere else, and which is always. So here's a question. Drop a comment in this video if you're watching the video. Have you considered moving out of New York? And I've seen a lot of different conversations about getting out of New York. A friend of mine asked that question just the other day. Is anybody considering leaving New York State? I consider it every day, not only because of the weather, but I find that actually for me, it's more about the weather. But a lot of folks are considering states like Florida and Tennessee, where there's no income tax. But they also get you with like registering your car or sales tax. But the bigger chunk is on your income. So a lot of folks would rather sell their home here and move down south if they have the ability to, in order to avoid income tax and ultimately the crap that goes on from the Democratic Socialists that run the government here in New York, where they could be in the state of Florida, Tennessee, Texas, one of those, and ultimately have a better quality of living and cost of living. So, like I said, drop a comment. Let me know if you consider moving out of New York, moving out of the local area, and what your reasons are. Is there one big reason, or is there multiple small reasons? It's always a consideration. I know one of my brothers who's going to retire from the sheriff's office, and well, it was supposed to be a couple, 2, 3 years. Now he's been promoted. It'll be 5 or 6 years, I think. But he always talks about his exit plan of retiring from law enforcement and moving to Tennessee because of the easier cost of living. So it's a very personal decision, I think, big decision. I have moved out of state before, many moons ago. It's a big undertaking. It's not something to take lightly, and you have to plan. Get a plan if you're going to do that, because it's something you have to really structure and organize to be able to move 1 to 5 states away. Even if it's only one state, it can be a big undertaking. So as I'm rambling here about moving, it's an interesting time of year. It's a fun time of year. I joke. I have a running joke on Facebook where the first of every month I put, like today, it's June 1st already. Christmas will be here before we know it. But how true is that? We're halfway through the year. For business people, you're screaming towards Q3, which that speaks volumes, because there's only 2 quarters left in the business year. And what do your numbers look like, and what have you achieved, and what do you have yet to achieve? But these first 6 months have, 5, 6 months have flown by. Now we have another 5 or 6 months, and it'll be a completely opposite time of year. So it's an exciting time. I know a lot of us pack as much as we can into June, July, and August because it's so nice, because we want to do as much as we can outside and take advantage of all the activities before school starts again in September. And, before it even starts, it's going to end here. I know locally, here in Syracuse and Central New York, schools are wrapping up over the next few weeks. The high school kids will be all but done before they start their end of the year testing by next week, I believe. And then the younger kids will be done by June 21, 22, 23, somewhere in there, with the last days of school. And then the next thing you know, it'll be 4th of July. So it's an exciting time for the school kids. I know, with my wife being a school teacher, that the kids are ready to be on summer vacation. The teachers are getting ready to be on summer vacation. I always kind of jab my wife and sister-in-law about, they only work, 10 months out of the year, but they work hard, and they're very experienced professionals that do great by our kids, and all teachers do great by our kids. And really, they probably, and I would say definitely, deserve a 10-month schedule versus working all year long like the rest of us dogs. But it's, the kids get a little off the wall towards the end of the year, because as the instruction wraps up and they get towards testing, they just want to be done. And they know summer vacation's coming, just like the teachers know summer vacation's coming. And the kids just want to be outside and hang out with their friends and do fun things and not learn anymore. So it's an exciting time of year for them. And then, you got graduations, you got the high school graduations that will happen, and all of those celebrations that go on. And drop a comment into the video chat. Let me know if you have a high school graduate this year, and what you plan on doing for a celebration. Is it a backyard party? Is it a trip? Are you going to go and buy them a car? What is your celebration that you are going to give your high school senior this year as they graduate and move on either into the business and working world, or off to college? It's exciting to see, and it's an exciting time. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up of episode 3 of CNY Conversations. And like I said at the beginning, I will be having guests from probably over the next 5 or 6 episodes, if not longer. Different guests with different topics, all the local flavor, all the local information. And I'm really looking forward to it. These conversations of something this is how I wanted to generate and build this community, as I said before. So stay tuned. And if you have anything you want to talk about, anybody you want to recommend for the podcast, send me a message, drop a comment on the video, and please like, comment, and share CNY Conversations with everyone, because I want to grow this. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, Have a great day.